Hello and welcome to the Indiana Lawyer Podcast, your source for news in Hoosier law, brought to you by Taft. I'm Alexis Shrake, Indiana Lawyer reporter, and your host this week. As always, I'm here in our Monument Circle studio with managing editor Daniel Carson and reporter Maura Johnson to give you the rundown on the latest legal news. Plus, I chat with Chief Diversity Officer and Senior Corporate Counsel for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Jimmie McMillian, about all things Indy 500. So, let's get started. Today is Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, and these are your headlines. To start, Daniel, big news came from Fort Wayne last week. What do you have for us?
The judge delayed until October the murder trial of an Indiana man charged in the killing of two teenage girls after the man's attorneys expressed concerns they would not have adequate time to present their case. Richard Allen's trial was set to begin next week with jury selection in Allen County for a May 13th to May 31st trial in Carroll County. Special Judge Francis Gohl set the new trial date for October 14th through November 15th. The latest change in Allen's scheduled trial came after Gohl in March moved his trial, which had previously been set for October, to May after Allen's attorneys sought a sooner trial date. However, Allen's attorneys have since claimed they have not had enough time to prepare their case and said the court had not granted them enough time to present their case during the trial itself. Allen, 51, who had worked and lived in the Delphi area, was arrested in October 2022 and charged in the 2017 slayings of 13-year-old Abigail Williams and 14-year-old Liberty German. He pleaded not guilty to the murder charges. In March, Gohl approved 2 additional murder charges against Allen. A relative of one of the teenagers dropped them off on February 13, 2017 at a hiking trail near their hometown of Delphi. Their bodies were found the next day in a rugged, heavily wooded area near the trail.
Traveling south to Indianapolis, Maura, you have news about his sentencing.
2 Indianapolis residents were sentenced to federal prison for their roles in trafficking dozens of firearms from Indy to Chicago in 2021. 27-year-old Maisha Webster was sentenced to 18 months in prison, while 34-year-old James Osborne III was sentenced to 3 years and 9 months. Between June and September 2021, Webster and Osborne straw purchased at least 37 firearms from federally licensed dealers in Indiana, according to court documents. Osborne would drive Webster to different dealers and give her money to buy guns for him to resell. Osborne himself was prohibited from buying guns. These straw purchase firearms were sold to a person from Chicago who would meet the pair in the Hoosier State to buy the guns and then take them back to the city. In September 2021, Webster was seen arriving at a licensed dealer in Brownsburg in a vehicle driven by Osborne. On the ATF form, she listed herself as the buyer and wrote down a fake address. A few days after, ATF agents caught Webster and Osborne selling firearms to their Chicago buyer in Lafayette. Law enforcement has recovered 30 of the estimated 51 firearms Webster bought. 17 of the guns were recovered in Chicago and surrounding cities.
Thanks, Maura. Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita weighed in on a politically charged transgender issue, issuing an advisory opinion that declares that neither state nor federal law requires the usage of preferred pronouns in the workplace. During the Facebook live stream, Rokita said the opinion came from questions and concerns raised by Congressman Mike Speedy. The opinion came just before the primary election, where incumbent Speedy lost to Jefferson Shreve. It also came just after the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission ruled that the workplace bias law covers preferred bathrooms and pronouns. The opinion notes that repeatedly misgendering somebody could amount to a hostile work environment under federal discrimination law. Rokita said at the press conference, "We have to ensure that we have a workplace that's not hostile to everyone." Democrat candidate for Indiana Attorney General Beth White, who is seeking Democratic nomination for State Attorney General, called the time Rokita spent on the opinion wasted tax dollars. Destiny Wells, who is running against White for the party's nomination, agreed with her Democratic opponent. Going back to Maura with news regarding Rokita.
The Indiana Court of Appeals reversed a trial court opinion granting summary judgment to a plaintiff requesting information from an informal advisory opinion issued to Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita. The opinion, issued by the Indiana Office of Inspector General in January 2021, spoke on Rakita's continued employment with insurance broker Apex Benefits. A few weeks after Rakita received the opinion, a spokesperson for the Office of the Attorney General told the Indianapolis Business Journal that Rakita received the opinion and that it stated his, quote, interests and outside employment are all squarely within the boundaries of the law and do not conflict with his official duties. Barbara Tolley submitted a public records request for access to the informal advisory opinion from the Indiana Office of Inspector General concerning the ethics of Rakita's outside employment. The Office of the Attorney General denied Tolley's request under Rule 8 of the Indiana Code of Ethics, which states that informal advisory opinions issued by the Inspector General are confidential. Tolley sued Rakita for violating the state's Access to Public Records Act. The Marion Superior Court granted Tolley summary judgment, inviting Rakita to provide a redacted copy of the opinion, but instead he appealed. While that appeal was pending, the Indiana General Assembly amended Indiana Code Section 4273, which stated any advisory opinion issued by the Inspector General, even those issued before the amendment, is confidential. When Rakita attempted to use the amendment to resolve the appeal in his favor, Tolley argued the amendment violated the Indiana Constitution. In its opinion, the Court of Appeals stated Rakita did not waive confidentiality, saying the spokesperson's statement to IBJ that Rakita saw and received an opinion was generalized and offered little specific information. Further, the appellate court stated that the legislature sets public policy and the court should only interpret the law as written, claiming the amendment doesn't violate the Constitution. In reversing and remanding, the appellate court gave instructions that the trial court grant Rakita's cross motion for summary judgment.
Staying in the state's capital, the Indiana Court of Appeals recently reversed a trial court's dismissal of a father's defamation lawsuit against his son. The son, Andrew Campbell, an Indianapolis-based family violence researcher and author of Not Without My Pet, Understanding the Relationship Between Victims of Domestic Violence and Their Pets, he is also the founder of Campbell Research and Consulting. In his book and on social media, he describes the fear and emotional and psychological abuse that he alleges his mother endured during his teen to young adult years. In January 2023, Mark Campbell filed a complaint against his son for defamation and false light invasion of privacy. He has maintained that he was never physically, sexually, emotionally, or verbally abusive toward his son or his son's mother. Andrew moved to dismiss Mark's complaint under Indiana's anti-SLAPP statute, which allows defendants to move for dismissal of a lawsuit in defense of their free speech rights in connection with a public issue. Hendricks Superior Court granted the motion, which the appellate court has now reversed. The court also remanded the case back to the trial court to continue the litigation of Mark's claims and Andrew's counterclaims. Now, over to Daniel with a new lawsuit linked to protests at Indiana University over the war in Gaza.
The ACLU of Indiana filed a lawsuit in federal court on behalf of 3 individuals who received no trespass orders after being arrested for protesting the war in Gaza on the Indiana University campus in Bloomington. Inside Indiana Business reported the lawsuit alleges that IU violated the plaintiff's First Amendment rights by prohibiting them from returning to the campus to rejoin the ongoing protests. The plaintiffs are Bloomington resident Jasper Worthshafter, an IU graduate who is not currently a student at the university, Benjamin Robinson, a tenured associate professor of Germanic Studies at IU, and Madeline Meldrum, a current graduate student at IU. The suit, filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Indiana, lists the IU Board of Trustees and President Pamela Witten as defendants. According to the lawsuit, Wirtschafter and Meldrum were arrested on April 25th, while Robinson was arrested on April 27th. All 3 received no trespass orders prohibiting them from setting foot on campus for 1 year, and all have appealed the orders. Quote, today's filing contends that these bans are an unlawful prior restraint on the free speech rights of the plaintiffs, each of whom wants to rejoin the ongoing protest on campus, end quote, the ACLU of Indiana said in a news release. The arrest took place in Dunn Meadow, an area of the Bloomington campus that the university had deemed a public forum for expression on all subjects, according to a policy enacted by the IU Board of Trustees in 1969. In a statement to Inside Indiana Business, IU spokesperson Mark Bode said the university does not comment on pending litigation. The original 1969 policy said that from the hours of 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., any signs, symbols, or structures could be used for a demonstration without advance permission. However, that policy was changed on April 24th, one day before the protests were set to begin, to require permission prior to the erection of temporary or permanent installation of any structures, including tents and signage, in Dunn Meadow, regardless of the time of day of the planned display, the lawsuit said. In a letter to faculty obtained by the Indiana Capital Chronicle, IU President Pamela Whitten said the last-minute policy change was made to balance safety and free speech. The plaintiffs are seeking an injunction allowing them to return to Dunn Meadow to continue participating in the protests, as well as an undisclosed amount in damages and attorney's fees, plus all other proper relief.
Thanks, Daniel. Lastly, I have news from the Southern District Court on its recent ruling that Indiana's 2017 abortion law violates the First Amendment. The law prevents healthcare professionals from providing a pregnant, unemancipated minor with information where they can obtain an abortion in another state where parental consent is not required. The state law has been permanently enjoined by the federal court. Senior Judge Sarah Evans Barker granted summary judgment in the case that was initially filed by the American Civil Liberties Union of Indiana in 2017. The order stated, the state argued providing an abortion to a minor, quote, potentially denies abortion providers access to essential medical information, end quote. Barker wrote, however, the dissemination of accurate information regarding a minor's reproductive care options is several steps removed from performing an abortion without parental consent. Abortion was banned in Indiana in 2023, with few exceptions. Senate Enrolled Act 1 bans abortion in Indiana except in limited cases of rape, incest, fatal fetal anomaly, or to protect the life or health of the mother. And to wrap up this week's headlines, Daniel, tell us about what you're working on for our next print issue.
The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration is moving to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug. The DEA's proposal would recognize the medical uses of cannabis, but it would not legalize marijuana outright for recreational uses. My story will look at what that means for Indiana and whether that will affect what kind of marijuana-related legislation is introduced in the state's next legislative session.
That'll do for this week's headlines. As always, if you want more legal news, check us out at theindianalawyer.com. Stick around after our sponsor break to hear my interview with Jimmie McMillian.
Taft, today's modern law firm. At Taft, we cultivate a highly respectful, transparent workplace that fosters creativity, teamwork, inclusion, and diversity. We couple our culture with a client-first approach, rewarding lawyers who understand their clients' goals and work to deliver success. Taft, the modern law firm. To learn more, visit taftlaw.com.
I have with me today Jimmie McMillian, Chief Diversity Officer and Senior Corporate Counsel with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The checkered flags are flying. The weather is getting hot. It is May. The Indianapolis 500 is coming up, every Hoosier's favorite time of the year. It is more than just racing, though, isn't it, Jimmie?
That's right. It's a lot more than racing. There's business being conducted at the Speedway.
So to start, how about you walk us through a day in the life at working at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway? So I imagine, a lot of people are so interested in the work that you're doing, but don't really understand what it is that you do.
Well, what I do is try to make people happy. We try to make sure that people are going to come to our events, particularly the Indy 500, but all of the events that we have, and come to our facility and really have a lasting bucket list experience for themselves and their families. And that they're able to do it in a safe way that brings them back, not just time and time again in their lifetime, but for generations to come. It's a great job. I have not had a bad second at work since I started on May 2nd, 2016. I tell everybody that because it's the truth. We have a dynamic leadership team, a great group of colleagues throughout the organization, and it's connected to this place we all call home, Indiana, in a way that I think other jobs are not. This is what we are. This is who we are. This is what defines us is motorsports and racing, and we're also very proud of it.
So another part of your job is Chief Diversity Officer. So what exactly does that entail?
So, right. You said a day in the life of Jimmie McMillian. Well, it's switching gears, to use a phrase. I do a lot of gear shifting from the legal gear of drafting contracts, drafting sponsorship agreements, analyzing legal issues and things that come up in motorsports and entertainment, protecting us from risk, looking at, all of the things that help our business partners put on the greatest spectacle in racing, and then shifting gears very quickly and hard to things that make our track the place that we all want it to be in terms of inclusivity and diversity, making everyone feel welcome. It's no secret that in many corners of the state and many neighborhoods, for very variety of reasons, people did not feel welcome at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, or maybe felt like, I've lived here my whole life, my family's lived here my whole life, and they've never gone to the track, and I don't know how I'm going to get treated, or I don't know if they really want me there. And that history was there, but it's not today. And thankfully, that's everybody, who have worked on it, not just me. All of our employees, are over 250 full-time employees, our part-time employees, everyone who greets you from the gate, our fans who really want and believe anybody and everybody should be able to come and enjoy this sport, and that it's not a, quote, racist sport or a sexist sport. It's not a place where only white men can come and have a good time. It's a place where everybody should be able to come and enjoy. And that's what all of our DEI efforts are about. We have a program called the Race for Equality and Change. It's very comprehensive in terms of making sure that our workforce, the people that we work and we do business with, the people who are on track and getting opportunities to be engineers and drivers, and all the capacity that you have in racing, that they all reflect the broader society that we live in and the broader society that we want as fans.
You kind of said it already, the greatest spectacle in racing. So F1 has been told, that slogan is legally the Indy 500s. Do you think we may see any litigation in the future on protecting IMS's trademark?
I sure hope not. We take great pride in the slogan, the greatest spectacle racing. If you've come to the Indy 500 to see 33 cars traveling at over 200 miles an hour, all in tandem, a history that dates back now, over 100 years. And then to know that we are the largest single day sporting event in the world. It's not just what goes on track. It's everything about the Indy 500 that makes it the greatest spectacle in racing. And so we hope, we've notified F1 and we hope that they will comply. I know they recently ran a race in Miami in which I don't think they referred to it as the greatest spectacle in racing. So hopefully we won't have any litigation. Even though I'm a lawyer, I'm obviously a lawyer that doesn't want to be in court. So usually these things are worked out, and I'm hopeful this will work out as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The Federal Trade Commission recently issued a new rule banning virtually all non-compete agreements. How do you expect this will affect drivers and race engineers?
I'm not sure it will. I think a lot of the drivers routinely go from team to team, race for different teams, enter in different contractual agreements with different teams. There may be confidentiality provisions, but they typically are not bound by, per se, non-compete. In some of the typical ways that we see some IT professionals and other folks who are put, or sales professionals who are put in non-competes. The same thing with engineers. I think it's understood that sometimes an engineer is going to go from team to team and take a certain amount of their expertise, or could do that. We are actually looking for talent. What you hear is most IndyCar teams are trying to get younger talent, new faces, new blood into the sport, and recruit them and develop them. And it's a hard sport to get into. And sometimes you have to race in various teams just to get the experience. You have to go through different series and different places just to get the experience to get to that very high level of being an IndyCar race engineer. So, as this is a new development with the FTC, I'm wondering how it will affect a number of different industries, particularly the sales industry, where, you see a lot of folks who are in sales, where they've developed business relationships or they've developed customer relationships, and those non-compete agreements are designed to protect those relationships, to keep them from going with that salesperson. I'm interested to see that. Is that where it may even touch motorsports in some way? But we'll have to see how this develops over time to really know its impact.
So what is your favorite thing about, May, this month of May, when there's so much going on?
Oh, man. Favorite thing about May is I met my now wife in the month of May when she joined our motorcycle club. And I took her on her first date. This was in 2015, the year before I got there. I took on our first date to the Indianapolis 500 and the Snake Pit. And it was her first time. She grew up in Niles, Michigan, but she had lived in Indianapolis, in Hallville, her entire life and never had been inside the track. She was one of those people. Never been inside the track, never experienced it. And we had a ball. We had a great time. I had been to the race before, but she hadn't. And then to know that a year later, I worked there. Every year we take this picture of her standing on my shoulders. I put her up on my shoulders and we take the same picture that we've taken for now. This will be my 8th race, 9th time taking the picture because we took it the year before. And it's just unbelievable. I feel incredibly blessed to have this experience, to work for something so significant and then to expose others to it. That's what this month means to me. It means that to me on a personal level because of that date with my wife. I saw it with her. It means that because my kids have become and my mom have become so ingrained in the race and everything about it. My mother's a huge Willpower fan. They know each other. They talk to each other. It's a thing. My son was driver of the year in this program called NXG Youth Motorsports. It's our go-karting program, which is targeted at particularly inner city youth to teach them STEM concepts and using go-karting. Now he works for that program. We now are going to have a day on May 15th where we invite over 2,000 IPS kids all on one day to the track to learn about STEM careers and motorsports and get them excited. And they're going to get to see an Indy 500 practice. And I know that most of those kids will have never, experienced something like that before. It's a pilot program that we're trying to grow to maybe one day having all the kids at all the schools, charter, public, private, at IMS on one practice day to get that same sort of energy and excitement. It's just so representative of everybody that's going to come to the track. I know they're going to be there in the month of May. They're going to text me, I'm at the track. Come find me. It becomes the center of town. It really becomes our town square. And everybody comes there as, something where they're doing business. They're having a good time. They're learning new things. They're doing fundraisers. They're doing thank yous. They're spending time with their family. They're enjoying good food. They're smiling. They're laughing. They're exciting. And it's all something that plays out in May. And as a lawyer, I tell people I used to work to bill hours and solve complex legal problems. And now I work to make sure that people have fun. And I think that is the best thing about being a lawyer at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. My job is to make sure people have fun and that they stay safe.
So, turnout kind of being, on the rise the past few years at the Indy 500. But I believe, was it last year, there was still like the blackout for watching it on TV. How do you kind of expect that will turn out this year? I
think we'll still have the blackout, I believe. Unless there's a sellout, which there's a possibility. Our ticket sales are up, but I would anticipate that there would still be a blackout. And the reason why we do that is we want our fans to be able to enjoy the race. It means something to come to the race. I think those who have gone to the race would say it's as challenging as it can admittedly be to get there, especially if you don't leave early and get there early. I tell folks, if you come at 7, 8 in the morning, it's a lot easier run to get there than if you wait till 1 o'clock. But experiencing it in person, unlike any other sporting event that I can think of, you just don't get it as much if you're not there. It is an entirely different experience to come to the Indianapolis 500 in person, to come to the track in person, to feel the G-force, to see the speed in person as opposed to it being somehow transmitted from a TV. It just doesn't translate as well as that personal experience. And there's a community feel to the Indy 500 that's like no other. I've gone to Pacers games, I've gone to Coast games, and certainly, in the playoffs, it's a different feel at those events. But you're talking about over 300,000 people, and many of those folks, it's a generational thing. It's a place that they have decided every Memorial Day, I don't want to be any other place but at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This is my home. I've come here for years. My father, my grandmother, we've always come to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and we've always spent this time here, and we've always parked here, and we've always kicked back, and we tailgated, and this is what we do. And we do it in a very large, group of people. That leads to, are you going to make that really special by saying, we're going to black it out, in this market so that people, are motivated to come? Sometimes sometimes that happens. I think it's going to happen this year, unless, like I said, our sales are up, and we may end up, in a situation where 2016 we did it. We may do it again. We may sell out. Mm-hmm. So get your tickets. Get your tickets. If you haven't got your tickets, get your tickets. Make sure you are ready to come and enjoy what I hope to be a very exciting, thrilling race. We had a great race last year with Joseph at the end. And Marcus Erickson dueling it out. And Marcus says he's coming back for more. And I know Joseph's coming back for more. And I can't wait to see it all. You never know who's going to win the Indy 500.
Alrighty, so that'll do for this week's interview. Jimmie, thank you again so much for joining me. To our listeners, head over to theindianalawyer.com to hear our past interviews. You can also find us on your favorite podcast apps. We'll talk to you soon.